I'm creating this video in response to a video I watched on the topic of Slolipsism, and I feel like the man who gave the talk really has no working idea, has no idea of a working Slolipsism. Um, I think in general, I've written almost a whole page of things that he said that I disagree with. And in general, my general idea of his talk is that he's made many wild and unfounded accusations against solipsism, and he also says that this is the truth, and he strongly asserts that his wild accusations are true. I'll just start out with my list. Right off the bat, he starts off, and many people have commented the same thing under the video in the comments, that he asserts that Slolipsism is a religion. And for me, I basically came to the ideas of Slolipsism in my own mind just by logically understanding the world, by really trying to find out what is real and what is truth in life in general. And I didn't join any religion. I came to these ideas by pure logic and by reasoning things out in my mind, and trying to understand the world better. And I later learned that my ideas are similar, if not the same, as some form of Slolipsism, because there are varying degrees of Slolipsism also. But Slolipsism is not a religion. I would say religions have rules, they have repetitive actions. Slolipsism is all about, is an ideology. It's a way of thinking, but it's not even a prescribed way of thinking. It's just the conclusion that a logical person, I feel like, comes to if they really think about how everything is in reality. And I know everything is kind of vague right now, but I'll explain my view of Slolipsism later, and in better detail. Okay, he goes on to say that another crazy accusation, and I think he talks about Slolipsism being demeaning to other people. I think that's pretty demeaning for him to say that that Slolipsism like kills masculinity, like it's suppressing. It sounds he speaks against the New Age movement, yet he says like the masculine force or something, the masculine energy. That Slolipsism pushes down the masculine energy. The masculine energy sounds very New Age to me. It's not, but Slolipsism doesn't. It's not a religion. It doesn't tell you anything. It's just a logical conclusion to come to. There's no church of Slolipsism that tells you don't be masculine or something crazy like he asserts. It's not suppressing masculinity at all. There are no rules. And for one thing, I very strongly have, as he calls it, the masculine drive to act, to stand up for what's right, and I believe in Slolipsism isn't the right word, but I've come to Slolipistic ideas, just in my own thought, in my own reasoning, and I have a strong desire to act. I do think that there are things that are evil. I do think that there are things that I think everybody who's reasonable would say there are things that we shouldn't do, and certain ways we shouldn't treat people. And for some reason, the man in the video about Slolipsism here says that suppressing the masculinity is all that Slolipsism is about, and like Slolipsism isn't about anything. It's a logical, as I've said many times already, it's just a logical progression. It's just a logical conclusion. There is no Slolipsism as a religion or as a group of people telling you what to do. We also, as Slolipsists, for me personally, can't speak for everyone, but it's not that I accept that he says that everything is right, that there is, just because you don't think that just because you don't think you can know truth doesn't mean that if somebody perceives that something evil is right, then that's okay. That doesn't mean that at all. Um, he says that we like to ignore the truth. I mean, it's not a religion created to ignore the truth. It just because we don't think that truth can be known doesn't mean we're ignoring the truth or that we're afraid of the truth. Another crazy thing he says is that people who are solipsists are mentally ill. Like, that is a crazy and very offensive conclusion that he came to, and totally unfounded. And I feel like he has no idea, absolutely no idea, about what an actual working, functional human being, what their idea is of solipsism. He just makes his own conclusions about the little paragraph that he's read on solipsism, and creates the most extreme human being possible, that believes his version of solipsism. Um, I would agree, though. I mean, if you, it's not, it's high thinking, it's complex thinking. I wouldn't say you're mentally ill if you think you're the only person that exists, and because that ties into solipsism. If you think you're the only person that exists and other people are just a part of your perception or may not exist, that's not totally unfounded thinking to me. Um, but I think that's super extreme to say that they're mentally ill and they need to be solipsists need to be, incarcerated or something, put into a mental institution to be made better. It just shows that he doesn't understand the solipsism in fact, in truth. I think, okay, he also says that we think we are the only being, and I don't think that that's necessary at all. I don't think I'm the only being. I think that's a possibility, and again, everything is unclear now, but I'll go over what I actually believe is the entire solipsistic view. But I don't think that, as he says, it's very egotistic. Like, for some reason, the person is just an egomaniac and decides to believe he's the only human, and that's just he just created this religion. Again, that's not a religion, to feed his ego, that I'm the only person and nobody else exists. That's not true. I don't think that. I think that's slightly absurd to think, but also along the lines of solipsism, it could be true, as I'll explain later. And he also wildly asserts that solipsists think that we're God. I have no idea why he would think that, because if you're the only being in the universe, that doesn't mean you created anything like God, and then saying that my perception is the only real perception. That's not something that I think. I think other people have perceptions, and I'm not egotistical in saying that mine is the only perception that matters. And, like, how would that work in society? Each person's perception of right can't be right. That would not. We have to have one universal set of rules, a set of morals. Let's see, what else does he say? That is demoralizing to others to say that I'm the only person and you guys are just all figments of my imagination. That's not what I believe. That's maybe an extreme solipsism. I feel like he extremely, like, I don't know, for publicity's sake, for entertainment's sake, that he just extremely exaggerates his totally unfounded assumptions. Like I said before, he just creates the most, like, okay, somebody who probably should be in a mental institution. He asserts that a solipsist is basically the craziest person that he could come up with that believes his interpretation, again, of solipsism. And also, he asserts that's a huge difference too. For some reason, he thinks solipsists are terrible people. For some reason, that we're crazy and we don't care about anyone and we're egomaniacs. But he says that another wild assumption is, he says that we think that nothing matters, and just because you can't know truth doesn't mean that nothing matters. Also, and he says that for one thing, that's the thing that is the most far off of the truth for me is that he says that it's nonsense, and to me, it's totally the opposite. To me, it's pure logic and pure reason. So totally the opposite of nonsense. Like, it's not something. It is absolutely not something I made up to feel like I'm God, or to have a big ego, or because I believe I'm more important than others, or I believe that others don't exist, so I created this. I purely came to it from reason, so it's the furthest thing from nonsense. Also, he says that, I'm not a huge student of nihilism. I don't know everything in nihilism, but he almost asserts that solipsism is like nihilism, that we think that like nothing matters and why should we care. It's not true for me. Like, I care about a lot of things. I try to improve myself, try to help others. I'm not this egomaniac, mentally ill person that he describes. And just because he confuses the two things. He confuses the fact that Slolipsists say that we can't know truth with that there is no such thing as knowledge. Like, of course there's such things as knowledge. Like, for instance, I'm big into science and math and physics and things like that, and okay, of course we can have knowledge. We can like have the knowledge of a language, of how to drive a car, of social etiquette and how things work, and how to get to school or work in the morning. You know how to play a game. You know how to use a computer. But a good example is we can have knowledge. It's different than truth. Have knowledge about physics, for example, like Newtonian physics. But the thing is that Newtonian physics even is knowledge, but that's not truth, because it's not true universally. Because, for instance, Newtonian physics breaks down at an atomic level. It breaks down at immense speeds, close to the speed of light. That's not the truth. It's a system that you can know. It's knowledge. It's a system that's useful, but it's not really the truth in a way. And I'll explain this more when I go into my view of Slolipsism. Let's see what else. I'm almost done with the list here. Oh yeah, another thing that's like super offensive is he's saying that, like, another just wild assertion that he for some reason has to believe that Slolipsists are terrible people, is he says that it's somebody who's given up on life. Like, how would you come up to that conclusion? And somebody who's lazy. Like, I'm the furthest thing from lazy. I'm the furthest person, from giving up on life. And again, he thinks that we created this religion or this ideology because we just think that he says we're too lazy to even care about knowing things. We just think it's too hard to know stuff. Like, that's ridiculous. Come on. And that we're ignorant and all this stuff. I mean, if you're a debater, if you're a philosopher, why do we need to like throw punches? Why do we need to say demeaning stuff about each other? Just say logic. If you wanna, just say what you think. Just say. You don't have to demean the other person. Just give your point. We can trade logical views. A personal attack is not a logical argument.